The screen of my laptop illuminated my face as I stared at the email thread. My sister Rachel's cheery, "Save the date," followed by 23 replies from every branch of the family. My name was nowhere in the conversation, not in the recipient list, not in the discussion of sleeping arrangements, not even in my mother's meticulous meal planning spreadsheet. The muscles in my jaw tightened as I scrolled through detailed plans for the annual Wilson family reunion at our Cape Cod beach house. The same beach house where I'd spent childhood summers feeling like a shadow. 3 generations of Wilsons planning 5 days together, and I'd learned about it only because my cousin had accidentally included me in her reply all about gluten-free options. My phone buzzed on my desk. Mom. The screen showed her smiling face, a photo I'd taken last Christmas when I'd flown cross-country, hoping things might be different. I answered, pressing the phone to my ear, my voice carefully neutral. "Hi, Mom. Emily, honey." Her voice had that particular tone, falsely bright with underlying tension. I was just calling about the reunion next month. My fingers tightened around my pen until I felt the plastic crack. 6 years running, always the same conversation, always after I'd discovered their plans through some oversight. "I saw the email thread," I said, the words tasting bitter. "Everyone's quite excited." A pause. Then, period. "Oh, well, I was actually calling because there's just no room this year, sweetheart. Your sister's kids need the space, and your brother's bringing his new girlfriend, and you know how small the place is." The pen snapped completely in my hand, blue ink spreading across my palm like a bruise. "My name is Emily. I'm 32 and a corporate strategist. This is the story of how I turned exclusion into ownership." In my Manhattan office, the skyline glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows, a daily reminder of how far I'd come from that Cape Cod kitchen. At 10 years old, I'd stand by the sink watching through the window as Rachel learned to sail with Dad, or as Matthew, barely 7, captivated neighbors with his precocious charm. "Emily, sweetheart, those napkins won't fold themselves," Mom would call, barely glancing at the sketchbook where I'd drawn the shoreline with careful precision. "Those doodles won't get you anywhere," she'd said once, not even looking at them. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica, my best friend since college. "Bet you $20 your mom called with the same excuse by noon." I smiled ruefully and typed back, "Too late, just happened. You win." "You okay?" Michael appeared at my office door, his expression concerned. "You've got that look." I straightened in my chair, quickly wiping the ink from my palm with a tissue. "Just family nonsense. Nothing new." He nodded, understanding without pressing. "Well, the Daniels merger documents are ready whenever you are." I nodded, grateful for the redirect. Work was my sanctuary where I wasn't invisible, where I was chief strategy officer at 32, the youngest in company history. As Michael left, I turned back to my laptop, minimizing the family email thread and opening the merger files. But something had changed inside me. A sudden clarity crystallized where resignation had lived for years. I opened a new browser tab and clicked on a bookmark I'd been revisiting for weeks. A real estate listing for the Cape Cod beach house now drowning in debt. Missed payments, tax liens, a second mortgage. Information I'd been quietly tracking through my industry connections in banking since I'd overheard Dad talking about refinancing during my Christmas visit. My family had no idea their precious gathering place was weeks away from foreclosure. They certainly didn't know I'd established a corporate shell company specifically for this purpose, leveraging the legal team from the Daniels merger to handle the paperwork discreetly. I hovered the cursor over the Submit Offer button, heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't just about a house. It was about every memory they'd excluded me from, every achievement they'd overlooked, every time they'd made me feel small. My finger clicked the mouse. 3 weeks later, I held the keys in my hand, standing alone in the empty living room of the beach house. Sunlight streamed through windows that needed cleaning, illuminating walls that needed painting, and floors that needed refinishing. The place was falling apart, just like the family myth that had kept me seeking their approval for so long. I ran my fingers along the kitchen counter where I'd once stood folding those napkins. This wasn't revenge, I told myself. This was reclamation. My phone rang, Jessica calling to check in. I did it, I said when I answered, my voice echoing in the empty house. The house? You actually bought it? Her excitement was palpable even through the phone. Just finalized this morning. It needs work, but it's mine. Emily Wilson, you magnificent creature, she laughed. What's your plan? I walked to the back deck, looking out at the ocean. I'm not sure yet. Part of me wants to tell them immediately. Watch their faces when they realize. Another part wants to wait until they show up for the reunion and find me standing in the doorway. The second one, Jessica said without hesitation. Definitely the second one. I smiled, picturing the scene. It's not about revenge, I said, though a small part of me wondered if that was entirely true. Of course not, Jessica replied, not believing me for a second. It's about justice, and maybe a little karma. As I hung up, a notification appeared on my phone, a calendar reminder for the Daniels merger presentation next week, the biggest deal of my career. Perfect timing. Success was my best revenge, and I was about to close a career-defining acquisition. For the next month, I poured myself into 2 projects, the merger and the house renovation. I hired contractors to repair the rotting deck, replace the leaking roof, and update the ancient wiring. I ordered new furniture, repainted every room, and installed a state-of-the-art kitchen. By the time the reunion date approached, the transformation was complete, both the house's and my own. I arrived a day early, setting up my laptop on the new quartz countertop, fielding final calls about the merger that had just closed successfully. The house smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. I'd already packed for London, my promotion confirmed, the international division mine to lead. The sound of cars on the gravel driveway came earlier than expected. Through the kitchen window, I watched my family emerge. Mom clutching her purse, Rachel herding her children, Matthew helping his new girlfriend with their luggage. They hadn't noticed my Tesla parked in the garage. I opened the front door before they could use their keys, standing in the doorway as their faces registered first confusion, then shock. Welcome to my house, I said, the words sliding off my tongue with quiet satisfaction. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Emily? What are you doing here? I stepped aside, gesturing them in. Coffee's fresh. Come in. They shuffled into the kitchen, eyes darting around at the renovations, the new appliances, the obvious changes. What do you mean, your house? Rachel asked, her voice tight. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. This place was about to be foreclosed. Rotting deck, leaking roof, wiring that was one storm away from disaster. I kept my voice calm, matter of fact. I fixed it, bought it 2 months ago. Matthew dropped his duffel bag. That's impossible. How could you afford it? I finished for him, arching an eyebrow. I listed my assets like a grocery list. My Manhattan penthouse, my investment portfolio, my Tesla. Work, Matthew. You should try it sometime. Mom sank into a chair, speechless. Dad, who had just walked in with groceries, froze in the doorway. Your house? He asked, voice barely audible. I took the bags from him, unpacking them with deliberate ease. Yes, and I'm hosting this reunion my way. The air thickened with their shock as I walked them through what I'd done. $60,000 in critical repairs, another $100,000 in upgrades, and the $450,000 purchase price that was well below market value due to the foreclosure status. Where was your family pride when the bank called? I asked, my eyes locking on Mom's. She couldn't hold my gaze. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one begging for their attention. I was the one in control. You're all still welcome to stay, I continued, but there are new house rules. And afterward, I'll be moving to London to head our international division. That evening, I took them to dinner at the Four Seasons in Boston. I'd booked private dining weeks ago, arranged gourmet catering, and opened the bar tab, orchestrating every detail to show them the world I'd built without them. Jessica had driven separately to meet us there, helping coordinate with the staff while I brought my family. Rachel's children darted around the marble lobby while Matthew fumbled with his borrowed tie, clearly out of place in the formal setting. My parents looked small against the opulence, their casual vacation clothes a stark contrast to my tailored suit. At dinner, Mom barely touched her plate. "This is cruel, Emily," she said quietly. I raised an eyebrow, leaning back in my chair. "Cruel? Treating you to luxury is cruel?" I gestured to the opulent room. "This is what I can do now. Imagine what you missed." Matthew's girlfriend whistled at the spread, but Mom's eyes were wet. "We were wrong," she whispered. "Is that what you want to hear?" I leaned forward, my voice steady. "I want you to feel what it's like to be left out. My college graduation you skipped for Matthew's game. My MBA honors you never acknowledged. Every milestone you ignored led to this." David, my mentor, arrived to join us, shaking hands with my parents. I'd invited him specifically to witness this moment, texting him the details after we'd finalized the merger. "Emily's exceptional," he said, his pride evident. "She's leading our European acquisition from London next month." He raised his glass. "To the youngest division head in company history." Mom's face paled, the weight of my success finally hitting her. Dad stared at his hands, unable to meet my eyes. Later, on the hotel balcony, Mom fidgeted with her coffee cup, the Boston skyline sparkling behind her. "I didn't know you were so accomplished," she said, her voice breaking. I set down my phone where I'd been answering emails about the London move. "You never asked, Mom. You thought I'd fail after I chose business over law." She flinched. "We wanted stability for you, like Rachel's career." I laughed sharply. "Rachel's law practice that never happened? Or Matthew's startups you kept bailing out?" Jessica joined us, her presence a quiet support. "Mrs. Wilson," she said coolly, "I spent holidays with Emily while you were at Rachel's. Remember?" Mom looked away, embarrassed. "We weren't terrible," she whispered. "You were indifferent," I replied, "which was worse." She nodded, her throat working. "You're right. But now we see you because you're successful. That's not fixing things, is it? That's just us realizing we were wrong." Dad appeared, sitting heavily beside Mom. "The house, Emily," he said. "It's done, paid for, renovated. You didn't have to." I smiled tightly. I did it for me. Back at the beach house the next morning, I packed for London, the ocean breeze drifting through the open windows. Mom stood in my bedroom doorway holding a small wooden box. "I found this in our attic," she said, opening it to reveal newspaper clippings of my achievements, high school honor roll certificates, even a sketchbook from my childhood. "I kept everything, Emily. I was scared." "Scared?" I touched the sketchbook, my fingers tracing the faded drawings of waves and shorelines. "Of what?" "That you'd outshine us all," she admitted, tears falling. "You broke free from our small-town life. I didn't." Jessica squeezed my arm, staying silent but present. Rachel and Matthew arrived, looking uncertain. Matthew held an envelope. "Investment ideas for the house," he said. "Not for you, for us." Rachel spoke up. "I'm taking a sabbatical, Emily. I want to visit you in London, really know you." Matthew added, a period. "I'm starting business courses. Will you mentor me?" I looked at them, my family finally seeing me. "Pretty words," I said, "but actions speak louder." I wasn't forgiving them. Not yet. Mom pulled a key from her box, the old front door key. "We don't expect forgiveness," she said, "but maybe we can build something new." I took the key, its weight heavy with possibility. "I'm still angry," I admitted, "and I'm still going to London." "We know," they said together. Dad stepped forward. "We messed up, but we want to try." I nodded, cautious but open. "Reunions will alternate here and London. You'll learn my world, business etiquette, everything." Rachel laughed through tears. "Mandarin too?" "If you're lucky," I smirked. For the first time, I saw hope in their eyes, not regret. I was ready to soar with or without them. The morning sun bathed the beach house in gold as I zipped my suitcase for London. My phone buzzed, David confirming my car to the airport. "The Daniels merger is officially closed. London's yours." I smiled, picturing my new office overlooking the Thames. Jessica hugged me goodbye. They'll never know what hit them. As I walked to the car, my family followed, not chasing, but walking beside me. The house stood proud behind us, no longer a symbol of exclusion, but a bridge to something new. "Don't waste this chance," I told them, sliding into the car. Mom's eyes met mine. "We won't," she promised. I believed her, just a little. The empty space where a gift should have been felt like a vacuum, pulling the air from my lungs. Everyone else tore through glittering paper and ribbon. Mom, Dad, Grant, his pregnant wife, even distant cousins I barely recognized. Laughter and exclamations filled the room as each person discovered what lay beneath the wrapping. But in front of me, nothing. Not even an empty box for appearances. "Oh no," my mother said, her voice performatively loud. "Victoria, we completely forgot." "Just like the good old days. Don't cry this time, sis." My brother Grant's eyes gleamed with familiar malice. No gasps of horror, no scrambling to find a forgotten package, just awkward chuckles and quickly averted gazes before they all turned back to their bounty. The message couldn't have been clearer if they'd painted it on the wall. "You don't matter. You never did." My name is Victoria. I'm 32 and a cybersecurity specialist. This is the story of how I learned that walking away can be the most powerful revenge. I grew up as background music in a house that only celebrated the lead singer. My brother Grant commanded attention like breathing. Star quarterback, prom king, Stanford acceptance at 17. Our parents built a shrine to his existence, complete with trophies that lined every shelf and photos that claimed every wall. I was the negative space, defined only by what I wasn't. Not athletic, not outgoing, not Grant. My earliest memory of invisibility came at 10 years old. Grant received a gleaming mountain bike for his birthday, metallic blue with 18 speeds and shock absorbers. I got socks, pink ones with little hearts that didn't even fit. When I asked why, Mom said, "Girls don't ride bikes anyway." But I did. I rode the neighbor's rusty hand-me-down until the tires burst, pedaling furiously as if speed might somehow make me visible. By 13, I'd stopped hoping for recognition. I sat silently on the stairs during Grant's academic celebration dinners, my own straight-A report card stuffed in my backpack, unmentioned and unseen. My words evaporated in our house, so I stopped offering them. By 16, I'd redirected my energy toward computers, code, and systems that made sense. Unlike family, code gave back exactly what you put in. The invisibility continued through high school. While my parents funded Grant's class trips and football camps, I worked weekends at a local cafe to save for college. The tech club became my sanctuary, not because it was cool, but because people actually heard me when I spoke. Then came the Thanksgiving dinner that shattered any remaining illusions. "To Grant," my father toasted, raising his glass, "for his entrepreneurial spirit. He's launching his media startup, and we couldn't be prouder." Glasses clinked. Grant basked in the adoration. "We just hope Victoria finds something stable. Maybe clerical work?" My mother turned to me, her smile tight. "I hear the deli down the street is hiring cashiers." An uncle chuckled. Laughter rippled around the table. I didn't join in. That week, I'd received a full scholarship to one of the top tech programs in New York. Tuition, housing, stipend, everything covered. I hadn't told them. Not because I was hiding it, but because experience had taught me it wouldn't matter. I left home a month later with a single suitcase and a silent promise. I would never return to beg for their approval. New York didn't welcome me with open arms. My dorm room had peeling paint and a window that rattled with every subway rumble. The first night, I cried into a borrowed pillow, while someone blasted music next door and someone else vomited in the hallway. This wasn't the dream. It was the grind, but the grind suited me. I took classes during the day and cleaned hotel rooms at night. Weekends meant tutoring underclassmen in Python or fixing laptops for extra cash. I didn't party or date. I worked, because working meant outrunning the version of me they had written off. By junior year, I was interning at a cybersecurity firm downtown. I was the only woman on the floor, the only person under 30, and the only one who never asked for help. They respected that. By summer's end, they offered me a part-time position while I finished school. I moved out of the dorms into a Brooklyn apartment with 2 other women who were also building something from nothing. The heat worked sporadically. We took turns plunging the bathroom sink and sometimes chose between electricity and dinner. But it was ours. Graduation came with honors and job offers. My roommates held up a sign made from a pizza box. "Go Vic! Build the damn thing!" Nobody else came. I didn't expect them to. I joined the same firm full-time and ascended quickly. Not because I was trying to climb some corporate ladder, but because I was building my own. My code became essential to the company's infrastructure. When a major bank was hacked in 2023, I designed the patch. When a government contractor needed a custom security suite, I built it from scratch. By 28, I was making six figures. By 30, I was leading projects. By 31, I closed a multi-year licensing deal with a European financial firm that paid me a bonus large enough to make my bank account briefly freeze before confirming the deposit. I didn't call home. Not because I was petty, but because I'd learned their silence was never about distance. It was about disinterest. Instead, I took a piece of that bonus and bought a condo in Boston. 2 bedrooms, minimalist design, stainless steel appliances, and floor-to-ceiling windows that made the city skyline feel like part of the furniture. I moved in mid-December, a week before Christmas. My friends came over with Thai takeout and cheap wine. We sat on the floor because I hadn't bought furniture yet. Someone gave me a candle shaped like a dragon. Another gifted a mug that read, "Just because you're quiet doesn't mean you're weak." We toasted to new beginnings. That's when my phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Rachel. "Hey, your mom wants to know if you'll come home for Christmas." Not "we miss you." Not "come visit." Just "come home," as if I'd merely stepped out for milk. I showed the message to my friend Olivia. "You going?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. Later that night, standing by the window with Boston's lights stretching before me, I whispered the truth. I think I have to. Not because they deserved it, but because I needed to see what I'd left behind and what I'd become. I drove to Connecticut the morning of Christmas Eve. The 6-hour journey felt shorter than expected, perhaps because I kept rehearsing what I'd say, knowing I wouldn't say any of it. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Sagging gutters, peeling paint, weeds spiraling through cracked concrete. A plastic Santa clung to the roof, the same one from my childhood, now missing a boot. I stood on the porch, overnight bag in one hand, store-bought cookies in the other. My finger hovered over the doorbell longer than I'd admit. When I finally pressed it, the chime sounded tired. The door opened to my mother's face, surprised, then studied, then stiffly polite. "Well," she said, "you look different." "I am," I replied. She pulled me into a one-armed hug that lasted exactly 1 second longer than necessary. Inside, the house smelled the same. Lemon polish, old upholstery, and disappointment. The living room bustled with extended family I barely recognized. Conversation halted as I entered, like someone had muted the television. "Hey, look who's here!" Grant's voice boomed from the kitchen. He emerged beaming, one arm around his wife's shoulders, the other gesturing to her swollen belly. "Everyone, this is Mia. Your future niece or nephew's in there." He patted her stomach. Polite applause followed. "Congratulations," I offered a smile. "Still working with computers or whatever?" he asked, voice light but laced with condescension. "I work in cybersecurity," I replied. "Enterprise-level AI defense." He whistled low. "Wow, still doing the techie basement thing, huh?" I didn't respond. Didn't need to. "Let's eat before it gets cold," my mother announced with a clap. "Victoria, your old room is now Grant's office, so we've made up the couch for you." Of course they had. Dinner placed me at the far end of the table next to the kitchen door, practically in the hallway. Grant held court, explaining some vague startup idea involving revolutionary media architecture, all buzzwords and ego. "I just need the capital to launch," he said. 200,000 should get us rolling." "We'll figure something out," my father nodded. "Family helps family," my mother patted his hand. I chewed overcooked turkey and said nothing. After dinner, my mother handed me a scratchy blanket and gestured to the couch. I lay there under the flicker of hallway light, listening to their laughter upstairs. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. Christmas morning came like a scene from a commercial. Mia and Grant bounded downstairs, tearing into presents with childlike glee. Boxes stacked high, ribbons flew, everyone cooed over the gifts I'd brought. Carefully selected, personalized, wrapped with handwritten notes. Then it came to my turn, except it didn't. "Oh no," my mother said far too loudly. "Victoria, we completely forgot." "Just like the good old days. Don't cry this time, sis," Grant laughed, and that was it. Something inside me stilled. Not rage, not hurt, just clarity. I reached into my purse and pulled out a single item, my keys. The brushed steel caught the morning light. "What's that?" my father asked. "The keys to my apartment," I said. "I closed on it last week. 2-bedroom condo in Boston. Hardwood floors, built-in smart security system, fully paid off." The room went silent. "You bought an apartment?" My mother blinked. "With what money?" "My job," I said. "My company licensed a security framework I built. The bonus was $160,000. After taxes." Forks paused mid-air. Grant's jaw twitched. Mia stopped smiling. "You've been making that kind of money for years?" My father leaned forward. "Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We're so proud of you." My mother's tone shifted instantly. Proud. For a moment, I almost laughed, but I didn't. "I should pack," I said instead. "I've got a long drive back." They protested. My mother begged me to stay for brunch. My father said we hadn't even talked about my exciting career. But I had seen enough, and they had shown me everything I needed to know. I came downstairs with my bag still unzipped and my resolve zipped tight. They were waiting for me, my parents standing just beyond the threshold of the living room, arms folded, smiles too polished to be genuine. Grant and Mia flanked them, trying and failing to look casual. "Before you go," my father began, "we wanted to talk to you about something important." I raised an eyebrow but didn't speak. I didn't need to. Grant stepped forward like a man doing me a favor. "This startup I've been building, it's really close to taking off. Just needs a little push, capital mostly." "How much?" I asked. He smiled, cocky as ever. 200,000. That would get us rolling." "It's an investment, honey. You'd be helping family." My mother nodded eagerly. "Yeah," Grant added. "With what you're making, it's nothing. You said you got that big bonus, right?" And there it was, the reason they suddenly remembered I existed. I looked around that room, the same room where I used to sit on the floor while Grant opened his brand new gadgets and I got thrift store cast-offs. The same room where, not 24 hours ago, they forgot to get me a Christmas gift. "No," I said plainly. It landed like a slap. My mother's face froze. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I'm not giving you $200,000 or $2. "But we're family," my father said, like the word still meant something. I laughed just once, not bitterly, just truthfully. "You mean now we're family?" Silence. "Where was that family?" I continued. "When I asked for help covering textbooks and you told me to take out loans? When you turned my bedroom into an office before I even left for college? When you told me I could sleep on the couch while Grant got a car and a tuition check?" "That was different," my mother snapped. "Things were tight back then." I nodded slowly. "But not tight for Grant." "He showed promise," she said too quickly, then backpedaled. "I mean, we thought college might not be the right fit for you." "No," I said. "You just assumed I wasn't worth the risk." Grant stepped forward, puffed up like he was still wearing a high school leather jacket. "Unbelievable. You make it big and suddenly think you're better than us." "I don't think I'm better," I said. "I think I'm finally done pretending we were ever equal." "You selfish brat," he spat. "After all we've done for you?" "For me?" I snapped. "You mean tolerating me while worshiping Grant? You mean throwing jokes at my expense at every dinner table? You mean forgetting me every holiday and pretending it was some innocent slip-up? We gave you a roof, food." My mother's voice turned shrill. "Parenting," I said coldly, "not charity. And you made sure I knew I was never wanted." My hand tightened around my suitcase handle. I turned toward the door. "Don't walk out like this," my father said. "We're just trying to build something." "You already did," I replied. "You built a hierarchy, and I just stopped trying to climb it." I stepped outside into the crisp air. Behind me, they shouted about regrets, about forgiveness, about family. None of it mattered. By the time I hit the highway, my phone buzzed every few minutes. Missed calls, voicemails, texts from numbers I didn't recognize but knew too well. Words like ungrateful, selfish, cold, flung like confetti at a party I'd never RSVP'd to. At a gas station just past the state line, I scrolled through them all, then blocked every number I didn't care to hear from again, except Rachel. When I got back to my apartment in Boston, it was quiet, peaceful. I poured a glass of wine and stood by the window, watching the skyline blink like the city was breathing with me. Rachel texted, "Mom's telling everyone you refused to help, that you've changed." "Good," I replied. "Maybe now they'll stop pretending I ever owed them anything." A day later, the cousins came. "Family is everything," one message read. "You should support your brother." Delete block. Another said, "Wow, you're cold." Maybe, but cold is what you become when you're tired of being burned. It's been 7 months since that Christmas. 7 months since I walked out of the house where I was raised and never looked back. Since then, life hasn't just moved forward, it's unfolded. I was promoted in March, head of engineering. The title didn't matter as much as what came with it. A team that respects me, creative freedom, and a compensation package that would have made my teenage self think I was dreaming. That same month, I met Nathan at a tech conference in Cambridge. He was quiet like me, but steady. A freelance designer who understood the chaos of startups and, more importantly, the silence that follows a toxic family. We got coffee, then dinner, then we didn't stop. Nathan doesn't ask for pieces of me I'm not willing to give. He doesn't try to fix me. He sees me, and that's enough. Rachel still calls every week, not because she has to, but because she wants to. She keeps me updated, though I rarely ask. Apparently, Grant and Mia are still living with my parents. The startup never got off the ground. The story my family tells now is simple. I abandoned them. I turned my back. I let money ruin me. It's easier, I guess, than admitting the truth. I was never theirs to lose. They tried reaching out through every channel. Old friends, distant cousins, even former teachers. I blocked each attempt, each guilt trip disguised as concern. My mother left a voicemail a month ago. Her voice trembled as she said, "Family is forever, Victoria." I didn't respond because I've learned forever only applies when it's mutual, not when it's conditional, not when it only kicks in once you've become useful. Nathan and I are planning a trip to Japan. We've been learning the language together, bookmarking noodle spots and old shrines. Sometimes when we talk about the future, he asks what I'd name a dog if we got one, or if I'd ever consider leaving Boston for good. The thought doesn't scare me. Not anymore. This city gave me space to grow, but now I know that what mattered wasn't the city. It was me. I've stopped mourning the family I never really had, and I've started building something better, something chosen, something whole. To anyone listening who's felt the sting of being overlooked, forgotten, dismissed, please hear me when I say this. You do not have to stay where you're unseen. You are not selfish for choosing peace, and you don't need anyone's permission to live the life you deserve. So walk away if you need to. Run if you must. Build a life that reflects your worth, not their expectations. Because the truth is, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say isn't, "I forgive you." It's, "I'm done." And when you say it like you mean it. Because peace isn't found in their acceptance. It's found in your own. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one. My throat tightened as I stared at my birthday cake. Not my name, their names. Dylan and David. My sister's twins grinned from across the table while everyone sang "The Candles," shaped like cartoon animals, flickered mockingly as my mother squeezed my shoulder. We thought it would be fun to celebrate everyone together. The knife in my hand suddenly felt heavier. I'd taken the day off work, driven 2 hours through traffic, and bought a new dress for this, my 30th birthday dinner that wasn't mine at all. My name is Rachel, I'm 30, and I work in corporate marketing. This is the story of how I became visible by disappearing. I should have seen it coming. For years, I'd been background noise in my own family, the reliable daughter who picked up slack but never received credit. Every Christmas, my sister Vanessa's gifts piled high while mine fit in a single bag. "She has the twins to think about," Mom would say, as if that explained everything. When I won marketing awards at work, Dad barely glanced up from his newspaper. But when Vanessa changed jobs? Family celebration dinner. I'd spent most of my adult life being their solution. Emergency babysitter, extra wallet, convenient afterthought. The twins spilling juice on my clothes at family dinners became such a common occurrence that I started keeping spare shirts in my car. "You don't mind, right?" Vanessa would say, already turning away, not waiting for an answer because my answer never mattered. That night, as everyone devoured my birthday cake with the wrong names on it, Mom slid an envelope across the table with a conspiratorial smile. "We have a surprise," she announced, her voice rising with excitement. "A family trip to Myrtle Beach next weekend. Everything's booked." Dad nodded proudly. "You'll love it, Rachel." Vanessa didn't even look up from her phone as she added, "You'll help with the boys so I can finally relax." Not a question, a statement. The room tilted slightly. I heard the clink of forks against plates, the twins arguing over who got more frosting, the hum of the refrigerator. Everything suddenly seemed too loud yet distant, like hearing it all underwater. "I'm not going," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. The chatter stopped. 4 pairs of eyes locked onto me. "What do you mean you're not going?" Vanessa's tone sharpened. "I mean exactly that." I set my fork down carefully. "I'm not going." Mom's smile tightened. "Don't make a scene, Rachel. We've already paid for everything." "I'm not making a scene." My heart hammered against my ribs, but my voice remained calm. "I'm just saying no." Dad cleared his throat. "After everything we do for you, this is how you show gratitude?" Everything they do for me? I mentally scrolled through years of being overlooked. My college graduation, where they left early because Vanessa wasn't feeling well. The promotion dinner they canceled because the twins had a soccer game. Every weekend I'd given up to babysit while Vanessa needed me time. "You've had my weekends, my evenings, my patience," I said, pushing my chair back slowly. "You can have this trip too, without me." "You're unbelievable," Vanessa whispered, but her eyes widened slightly. For the first time, I saw something new there, uncertainty. I walked out of the dining room, their voices rising behind me in a tangle of questions and accusations. The front door closed behind me with a soft click that felt more powerful than a slam ever could. In my car, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened the airline app I'd been browsing during lunch breaks for months. My finger hovered over a flight I'd saved weeks ago, a destination I'd never mentioned to any of them. The screen glowed in the darkness, a portal to somewhere else. I pressed, "Book now." That night became the first step in a plan I hadn't fully acknowledged I was making. I'd been saving small amounts from each paycheck for over a year, telling myself it was for emergencies. But as I sat in my apartment updating my vacation responder at work, I realized I'd been preparing for this moment long before I knew it was coming. For the next week, I moved through my life with strange, deliberate calm. At work, I finalized projects ahead of schedule. At home, I researched restaurants at my destination, booked tours, and printed confirmations that I stored in a clear folder. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. My phone buzzed constantly, Mom asking if I'd calmed down yet, Dad reminding me how expensive the trip was, Vanessa listing all the things the twins were looking forward to doing with Aunt Rachel. I responded with brief, non-committal texts that gave the impression I was reconsidering. I wasn't. 3 days before their departure, I visited my parents' house to talk about the trip. Mom looked relieved when I arrived, already discussing seating arrangements on the plane. I set my coffee mug down on the kitchen counter, the same counter where my academic award had been buried under grocery lists years ago. "I've been thinking about what you said," I started, my voice neutral, "about gratitude." Dad nodded approvingly from behind his newspaper. So I made a list of things I'm grateful for, I continued. I pulled out a small notebook. I'm grateful for the 26 weekends I watched the twins last year while Vanessa went out. That's 624 hours. Mom's smile faltered. I'm grateful for the $3,400 I contributed to Vanessa's car down payment that was never mentioned again. I'm grateful for missing my college roommate's wedding because the twins had swim lessons and no one else could take them. Dad lowered his newspaper, eyes narrowing. I'm grateful for the 9 family photos on this wall that don't include me, because I was the one taking the picture. I gestured to the hallway display I'd walked past my entire life. And I'm especially grateful that on my 30th birthday, I finally realized that I'm only part of this family when you need something from me. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument could have been. Rachel, you're being ridiculous, Mom finally said, but her voice wavered. Family helps each other. Yes, they do, I agreed. But help goes both ways. When was the last time anyone in this family helped me? Neither of them answered. I stood, gathering my purse. I won't be joining you on the trip. I've made other plans. What plans? Dad demanded. My plans, I replied simply. Enjoy Myrtle Beach. As I walked toward the door, Mom called after me. You'll regret this, Rachel. The twins will be so disappointed. I paused, turning back. That's the difference between us, Mom. You're worried about their disappointment over a vacation. I've been dealing with your disappointment in me my entire life. The weekend arrived faster than I expected. On Friday morning, the day of their departure, I woke before sunrise. Double-checked my own suitcase. It was already packed and waiting by my apartment door. I reviewed my itinerary one last time. My phone pinged with a family group text from Dad. Last chance to join us, car leaving in 1 hour. I didn't respond. Instead, I watched the clock, calculating exactly when they would be loading luggage, when they would be driving to the airport, when they would be checking in. Having dropped them off for countless family trips before, I knew their routine by heart. Dad's insistence on arriving 3 hours early, Mom's last-minute bathroom trips, the twins' inevitable snack demands at security. At precisely the moment I knew they would be going through security, I sent a single text to the group. I'm taking my own vacation. Enjoy yours. Then I silenced my phone, loaded my suitcase into my car, and drove to the airport, the opposite terminal from where they would be. As my plane lifted off, I imagined them standing at the gate, checking their phones, calling me repeatedly, slowly realizing I wasn't coming at all. By the time I landed in Sedona 6 hours later, my phone had 47 missed calls and 118 unread messages. I scrolled through them once, noting the progression from confusion to anger to panic. The latest one from Vanessa read simply, "You ruined our vacation." I smiled faintly, turned my phone off, and slid it into my bag. The red rocks of Sedona rose around me like sentinels as I checked into my hotel, a place I'd researched for months, with a private balcony overlooking the spectacular landscape. The clerk handed me my room key with a smile. "Enjoying some solo time?" "Yes," I said, realizing it was the first time I'd ever traveled completely alone. Exactly that. In my room, I unpacked methodically, hanging clothes in the closet, placing my toiletries in the bathroom. Then I walked to the balcony and stood watching the sunset paint the rocks in shades of fire. No one here knew my name. No one expected anything from me. The silence wasn't lonely. It was liberating. That evening, I dined alone at a restaurant I'd chosen carefully. The waiter didn't rush me. I ordered exactly what I wanted: an appetizer, entree, dessert, and wine. Without calculating how to share or compromise, I opened my journal and wrote a single line. Freedom doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives when no one is watching you leave. My family's vacation was scheduled for 7 days. I'd booked mine for 10. By the 3rd day, the frantic messages had tapered to occasional bursts of guilt and recrimination. I hiked trails I'd selected, took a hot air balloon ride at dawn, and scheduled a photography tour that had been on my wish list for years. I spoke to strangers who knew nothing about me except what I chose to share. I slept without setting an alarm. On what would have been their return day, I received a single text from Mom. "We're home. Where are you?" I sat on my balcony, watching the stars emerge above the red landscape, and typed carefully. I'm exactly where I choose to be. 3 days later, I returned to my apartment. Everything looked the same, but I wasn't. I unpacked slowly, placing a small red rock on my desk, a touchstone for this new version of myself. That evening, I started researching local book clubs and community activities. I'd always been too busy to join while catering to my family's needs. The next morning, my doorbell rang insistently at 7:30 a.m. Through the peephole, I saw Vanessa, arms crossed, looking thunderous. I opened the door but didn't step aside to let her in. "You disappeared for 10 days, she said without preamble. "Do you have any idea what you put us through? Mom barely slept." "I took a vacation," I replied calmly. "I told you where I was going." "You told us nothing, and you left us with all the responsibility?" I finished for her. How uncomfortable that must have been. She stared at me, momentarily speechless. "What do you want, Vanessa?" I asked. "Mom and Dad want to talk to you, Sunday dinner, to sort this whole thing out." I considered this for a moment. "I can come at 5 o'clock. I'll stay for 1 hour. I have plans at 6:30. Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. "What plans?" I smiled. "My plans. See you Sunday." That Sunday, I arrived exactly at 5 p.m., wearing a new dress I'd bought in Sedona. The house smelled of pot roast, my favorite meal that Mom only made on special occasions. Never for my birthdays, though. They were waiting in the living room, a united front. The twins were noticeably absent, probably at a neighbor's house. "Rachel," Mom began, her voice conciliatory, "we need to talk about what happened." "Yes," I agreed, sitting across from them. "We do." "Your behavior was completely irresponsible," Dad said, his face flushed. "We were worried sick. We couldn't enjoy the trip at all." "I'm 30 years old," I replied. "I took a vacation and informed you I wouldn't be joining yours. That's not irresponsible. That's setting a boundary." "A boundary?" Vanessa scoffed. "You abandoned us." "Interesting choice of words," I said, meeting her gaze steadily. "Considering how many times I've been abandoned for your convenience." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We never—" "You always," I interrupted gently. "My entire life has been shaped around Vanessa's needs and wants. I've been the reliable one, the one who never complains, the one who gives up her time and resources whenever asked. But I'm done being invisible in my own family." "This is ridiculous," Dad muttered, but his eyes didn't meet mine. I checked my watch. "I have 35 minutes left. Here's what's going to happen next. I'll still be part of this family, but on equal terms, I won't be the automatic babysitter anymore. I won't contribute financially unless it's reciprocated. I'll attend family events when I can, but my time and choices will be respected. And if we don't agree to these terms?" Vanessa asked, her voice tight. I smiled. "Then you'll get used to me not being around. I've already proven I can do that quite effectively." The silence that followed was profound. For the first time in my life, I saw uncertainty in all their faces, the dawning realization that the dynamics had permanently shifted. "Dinner's ready," Mom finally said, her voice small. "Your favorite pot roast." "That sounds lovely," I replied, standing. "I can stay for 20 minutes to eat, and then I need to leave for my book club." "You're in a book club now?" Vanessa asked skeptically. "I joined last week," I said. "I signed up the day after I got back from Sedona. There are a lot of things about me you don't know because you never asked." We ate mostly in silence, the conversation stilted and cautious. As I prepared to leave, Mom touched my arm hesitantly. "Will you come for Sunday dinner next week?" she asked, and I heard the unspoken question beneath it. "Are you still ours?" "I'll check my calendar and let you know," I said gently, "but I'd appreciate it if you'd ask me by Wednesday so I can plan accordingly." As I drove away, my phone pinged with a text from Vanessa. "The twins miss you." I smiled slightly, typing back. "I'm free next Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. if you'd like to bring them to the Science Museum downtown that I've been wanting to take them to for months. My treat." 3 months later, things had changed in subtle but significant ways. My parents called before assuming I was available. Vanessa actually asked if I could watch the twins, rather than telling me to. For the first time, family photos included me because someone else volunteered to take the picture. Last week, I received an invitation in the mail, a proper formal card for my birthday dinner with just my name on it. Inside, a note from Mom. Your day, your choice. It wasn't perfect. Old habits occasionally resurfaced. But now, when they did, I simply said, no, that doesn't work for me, and suggested an alternative. Sometimes I still saw flashes of resentment in their eyes, but more often I saw something new: respect. The small red rock from Sedona sits on my desk at home, a reminder of the day I chose myself. Some might call what I did revenge. I call it restoration of balance, of worth, of visibility. The remarkable thing about finally being seen is that once you are, it's impossible to become invisible again. If you've ever had to leave to find peace, let me know in the comments if it finally felt like freedom. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.